We're grooving. That looks awesome. Hi.
Hey, Boo.
I'm really excited about this.
Same. This is going to be the best interview I've ever done.
I hope so.
I like to hear.
So, okay, I'm really excited about this because I've known you, which listeners might not know, but I've known you for almost 10 years now, which has been a joy and an adventure. And I've learned things about you as a friend that I now get to investigate as a journalist and as an interviewer. So I'm pretty excited. And I was thinking what I want to start with is your origin story and take that and run with it. What does that mean to you? How did Leah Gooch get started?
I love that question. Thanks, Jane. It's a pleasure to be here. And it's awesome to do this, have this conversation with you in a public setting as well. I would say when you ask that question, like, what is my origin story? My first like flashback goes to being in my parents' basement when I was a kid playing school. And I had 12 imaginary students. I made little folders for them, like out of tape paper. They all had names. I took attendance. Some were absent sometimes. I remember assigning homework and then like doing all their homework. So like I'd have a question for them and then I'd go through each of them and like pretend that they would do these assignments and I put them in their little folders.
Wow.
And I played dress up. And I'd gotten a gift as when I was like probably in third grade or something. As I got a big chalkboard, like a real chalkboard that teachers would have. Teachers usually have like 3 of them or something in the classroom back in the day when they would have like real chalkboard. And I got this chalkboard and it was like, I am a teacher. So ever since I was little, I love the idea of like being with a group of people and being able to share whatever I was excited about with them. And so that's kind of where it felt like it started and coalesced into something that was becoming a vision that would be projected into the future. So then when it came time to pick out a major, I thought, well, what do I like the most? I like art. I like to draw. I like to paint. So why not? I could just teach it since that's what I want to be thinking about and doing myself. So it just was a real logical sort of way of thinking about college. So I went to school for it, got a job out of college down in New York City, teaching art to little kids in a charter school. It was very challenging. It was so much more difficult than I ever thought it would be.
Because they were kids or because teaching's hard or both?
Both. And I think I underestimated how hard it is to work with kids because they have limited vocabulary. So they're basically looking at you like, can you explain that concept within these,
6 words that I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Like 6 words I love. Plus like, I know like another
like
15.
The 80 I know.
Yeah. But like you have those words to choose from. And I am so excited to be alive. You have very little time to entertain me. So I'll give you about a minute max. And if it's not a good hook, then I'm already off onto something else. And it's like herding kittens. It's like, you can't get mad. They're just like these cute little munchkins that are just like trying to understand life. And, as a teacher, you're trying to like keep them all safe, but also have this curriculum. And for me, the art curriculum was based around different artists. I would teach them about different artists within the context of the cultural history. I'd ask them an essential question. So something about a story that would evoke a story for them, then teach them an art skill based on an artist, and then ask them to answer the question using that new skill. So using collage or using painting so there was always a tie to like their story, because that was the beauty of their art, was when they were really pushing to share their story through the art. And it was incredible. I loved doing it. It was exhausting. I did it for New York City, but it was an absolute thrill and pleasure. And the art that these kids produced was incredible. So I did that for 7 years, doing it for 7 years. And I did get my master's in it too. And so I was doing that. My mom was then diagnosed with cancer. And And at that time, I was also living with a dear friend, Carly, who also was in and out of treatments for a brain tumor that had come to grow when she was in high school.
Mm.
And so my mom was diagnosed, and then she was given a pretty bleak diagnosis because it was already pretty far along. It was ovarian cancer, which is also like the silent killer, they say, because the signs are pretty subtle of like stomach pains and different things. And usually women will push off going to the doctor because it's so subtle. And then by the time they go, oftentimes it's too far to be able to do much.
Jesus.
So after like a year of in and out of all those treatments, and I had then turned to yoga. I turned to hot yoga. I saw a sign for that Bikram yoga in New York City. It was like 30 days for $49. And I always in my head justified, I'm not gonna be here every weekend. I don't want to buy that membership. Well, I'm not gonna be able to use it as much as possible. And so I came down from a visit with my mom. I came back to the city and I looked at that sign and I was like, Leah, what are you waiting for? This is it. So I went, and that was where I really started using yoga in a very therapeutic way. So at the end of classes, I would just lay there and cry. And that was the beginning almost of where yoga played a really key role in my healing. Then there was the meditation component where I said, I'm going to meditate every day for 4 minutes a day. If it doesn't do something miraculous, I'll do it when I want. I did it. Within a week and a half, I had this moment that was completely illuminating, that kept me meditating. And writing, I would just journal. I would journal a lot. It would help me. Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way, using that structure of writing like 3 pages in the morning, was very therapeutic. So through that year, when my mom was sick, I went to therapy. She passed away. I continued with these practices that were like holding me through that terrible time. Carly passed away 6 months later. And then that day that when I found out that Carly died, I was on the phone to be interviewed for a job for that summer and I got the job. It was at a juvie center. And so that was my introduction to the prison system.
Wow.
But I was on the phone receiving that interview when Allie called on the other line, and I was like, I got to call you back, and answered the call and found out Carly was dying.
Oh my God. Oh my gosh. A couple of things really stand out in that story, that sort of progression. Something I think is really sweet and remarkable about you playing school as a young girl is the way that you were iterating the characters. It almost feels like each of the students, what did you say? You had 12 students, had their own personalities. Some of them were absent. Some of them were, maybe the teacher's pet. There was this quality of knowing their differences and facilitating their differences. And I think that's really remarkable because, you can play school, but every kid who plays school plays it differently. And it seems like you're playing in this way of getting to know these little and energies, little entities in your mind who are these representational of these other people. And then as you move forward in your progress and your journey and you go more into teaching, there's a facilitating quality. You want these kids to learn how to answer a new question. You want them to learn how to express themselves with a new set of tools. You go into a, juvenile detention center, and I want to get into that in more detail, but you have this. There seems to be a through line to me in hearing your story of seeing another person and wanting to help them express themselves, pull themselves out of themselves, communicate themselves, and having that as a preternatural gift or something that you find joy in or were born with, of just seeing other people and wanting to. Really, the word that comes to my mind is facilitate, wanting to facilitate other people existing, and not just existing, but maybe starting to thrive, starting to successfully exist as who they are. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, nailed it.
Okay.
That's it.
I love it. I love it. I get to experience that a lot as your friend. So it's a nice thing to experience. So your mom passed, what year was that?
Wait, I want to go back to something you said, like about them expressing themselves and communicating themselves. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's like what when I facilitate these classes, that's exactly what I'm trying to do, is like
Mm-hmm.
create that, almost like that light around, to be like, it's all inside of you. So
Yeah.
let's just illuminate it a little bit more and help you to see what's there and let it come out.
Yeah.
And also, like, don't be absent.
Don't miss my class.
Don't miss my class. I know it's 4 o'clock after a long day,
I
but
get it.
Lewis, you
You
got to
gotta
be
show
here.
up. If you
Never
do
forget.
the work, I can't help you.
I remember that being like, they have to sometimes be absent because these are real little people that I'm imagining here, and they're not always going to be here. So I need to acknowledge that.
That's great. I don't think every little kid who's playing school is thinking, sometimes Lewis is going to be absent and I have to make space for that. And I'm going to talk to him. I'm going to talk to him tomorrow when he gets here.
A crucial conversation.
Yeah. I'm going to get through to him. So your mom passed and your dear friend passed, and I imagine that was a huge blow. You said a couple of things I also want to touch on. You said that you started meditating 4 minutes a day, and you said to yourself, if this does something big for me, I'm going to keep doing this. And something big happened right away. What was that? What was that thing?
I had not like an experience that felt like a non-ordinary state of consciousness in the classroom with the kids.
Wow.
So just to be clear, like my meditation practice was, my altar was a wine box that I found on the side of the road from outside of a wine store. That was kind of cool. And it was my altar. So then I want
like a wine carton, not a box of Franzia.
Yeah, exactly. Not like the cardboard like that you play, like slap the bag or whatever from.
Right.
This was like a wine box. I thought, all right, well, this will do. And who knows, this is only going to be here for a couple of weeks because I'm only doing this thing for 2 weeks anyway. So I'll just put it in my room. And then I wanted like a little cloth because I thought these altars kind of have cloths. So I took an old t-shirt and just cut it. And so I had this raggedy, which I wish I had these things now. I mean, they're long gone, but had the cloth. And then I wanted some like stone. And at this point I had no crystals or any of that stuff. And so I just found a stone and just put the stone. So I had this box, the t-shirt scrap, and a stone. And it provided a space for me to sit in front of. So at least I had that one space that I would cultivate this energy around.
Yeah.
And it also helped because I would see it and think, oh, I got to meditate.
Yeah.
So I'll never forget laying in bed one night. It was during that beginning of like the week. Probably I had done it every day for a week, and then we're getting into like week 2, and I was not really seeing much of an effect. But I remember I was laying in bed and I looked over and saw my little altar and I thought, oh, I didn't meditate this morning. So I said, oh, whatever, I'll just skip it. And then I said, no, you said every day for 2 weeks. So I rolled out of bed, sat down, set the alarm, 4 minutes, just was breathing in and out. And at that point, I would just imagine that like I'm bones and skin and muscle, and I'm just breathing in and out love. Like I'm a conduit of that just for those 4 minutes. So then I was in the classroom with kids. I think they were around like first grade or second graders, and they're all at these circle desks, circle like group tables doing their art project. And one kid is just throwing a tantrum. He's yelling and kind of upset about something. And he was mad enough that I couldn't really talk to him reasonably, but he was not mad enough that he was going to hurt anyone.
Right.
So I saw him. I thought, I'm just going to stand near him and just meditate near him with my eyes open. So he was to my left. I stood to his right, still looking at the class, but just feeling his presence right here, just being there, almost like by him. Just like, you got to do what you got to do. If you got to yell, yell. So I was breathing so I went in, like kind of clocked in, like in and out love. I'm bones and skin, and I'm just breathing in and out love. And in that moment, another alpha student in the classroom, a boy who is his knees were on the seat. Those kids that just like have one foot on the floor, but they always have like a knee on the seat.
Yeah.
They don't want to sit down. They're just always...
I'm that kid.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. They're like, yeah. So he looks up at me kind of like startled, like, what are we doing about the situation? And he saw me, and it was as if he saw what I was doing and felt it and just said, all right, that's what we're doing. And went back to doing his art project. And it felt like in that moment, all of a sudden the whole classroom felt like the sea of love. It
Wow.
was just like this, I can't even totally describe it. It was like, it wasn't a color. It just felt like there we were all these bones and skins conduits of love, and that we were all connecting to the same field. And it was this sort of a, not a heaviness in a way of like oppressiveness. It was more of a coziness of it
Mm,
that was like felt. And I realized in that moment that all of the other kids in the classroom are looking at the other alpha kids in the class to know what to do when something
right.
happens. And they all read this kid and they're like, all right, I guess we're just being chill and, being loving and doing our artwork. And then in that moment, right after that feeling of like that sea of love, this little boy next to me went silent and then just quietly started crying. And then I turned to him and I was like, all right, let's talk about it. What happened? What's up?
Wow.
And I thought, oh my God, there is definitely something to meditation. This stuff is wild.
This is juicy
Yeah.
stuff.
It
Okay.
was the most powerful thing I had ever
Wow.
like experienced. I thought, oh my God, I just changed an entire dynamic of a classroom of
Wow.
all these 20 something kids using visualization and breathing.
Oh, I totally have chills. That's so beautiful. It made me think about when you were explaining the experience, I just kept thinking about frequencies and how you can tune into the energetic frequency of a space. And then you can, um, all of you are sharing, you're existing on that same frequency of love. And it's so cozy, and you can feel the presence of a multitude in the frequency that strengthens the frequency itself. And it's such a whole amazing carrying experience to be tuned into that and have the capacity to amplify it so that others can tune into it also. And I think kids are amazing because they're so open that they're like, I'm tuning into all kinds of stuff. I'm just friggin' tuning in and tuning out. And so you stand there as a powerful, adult figure who's practicing this new, I'm going to tune into this sensation of love. I'm going to stand here and try to create a peaceful space of love for this boy. And all of a sudden, all the kids who are like, I'm wide open conduit, I'm here tuning in. They're like, oh, that's great. Yeah, let's tune into that. And all of a sudden, you're standing in a room of just love. Ah, it's
That's
amazing.
exactly it. You're right.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Kids are that, and the kids are just mirror you. I mean,
Yeah,
kids are just freaking mirrors. I mean, if you ever want to control a room of kids, be as fun, loving, and joyful as you possibly can. And they love to tune into that frequency.
they do. Yeah,
They're like, I'll play,
feels
I'll do
great.
that. I'll
Yeah,
feel,
yeah.
my goal is to feel good.
Yeah, that's all I'm trying to do. I might get
Yeah,
hungry. Yeah, I might scream and cry. I'm probably tired or hungry. Just heads up.
exactly. Exactly.
Which
But
that's
other than
still
that,
us. The other day I
yeah,
didn't get
it's
enough sleep. I all of a sudden found myself, Micah's my co-creator of this show, for those who don't know, suggested I take a nap, and I go, I can't take a nap. I'm not tired. And I was like, oh, oh, and my 31-year-old adult self just regressed back to kindergarten. I'm very tired. I need a nap. I'm
yeah.
resisting the nap.
Yep. You're like that kid at nap time who
Yeah.
like in 1 minute later will just be snoring.
Yeah, exactly. I was passed out within like 2 seconds. That's beautiful. Yeah. So that's a profound moment. That's a very
Yeah.
eye-opening, heart-opening moment.
That was a big turning point for me. At that moment, I knew I had to change. I was like, oh my God, I have to figure out what this was. Like I know I just got a taste of something that I will continue to work towards trying to access again and again and again until I can experience it
Love that.
pretty much every day,
Mm,
just in some capacity. And
yeah.
that's what I've been doing.
So that's very powerful. So then you experience that, and shortly after that you have the transition of your mom, and the
Hmm.
transition of your friend
Hmm.
Carly, and you have this transition into juvenile detention centers. So you're still working with kids a little older, and these are kids who are they're in it, they're struggling,
Oh yeah.
they're in the mire. So go off, talk to me about how that went.
I'm thinking of this moment with them. We were in a classroom. So we were working on creating this mural. So the idea I had, it was myself and then a co-worker who
Facilitator.
was
Okay.
exactly co-facilitator, Alex, who he was really the mural master. And my job was more of like the art teacher. We realized like I could facilitate them creating these smaller scale pieces of artwork. And then he would would make them kind of fit into the bigger vision. And then, sorry.
Yeah.
He would fit them into the bigger picture and put them on use into computer software to then create this mural and project it onto the wall, where we would then trace it and then the kids would paint it in and everything.
Awesome.
So we're in the room, and this is like a couple weeks into working with these kids, and we haven't started painting yet the mural, but we're in the planning stages still. And we're struggling. It was the first time I'd ever worked in a juvie center. And I felt like there was a lot of, working through trying to figure out how best to approach this project. And I had never worked on a mural before. And of course, I was also going through my own, upsetting experience.
Yeah.
Was relieved to be so immersed in something that required so much of my attention, though, I would say, like throwing myself into this kind of work was very helpful.
Yeah.
And at one point, the kids just were not like they weren't engaging, they weren't listening about something. And I just kind of like, I kind of like lost my control of like keeping it together. And I started crying. I like was crying, and I was like, because one of the kids, I think I know what it was. One of the kids was like, "Why are you here?" And I told them, and I started crying. That's what it was. I didn't lose my temper. He just felt that I was like annoyed, and he was kind of just like, "What are you doing? If you don't like, you don't seem like you want to be here." So I told them like why I was there. And
What did you tell him?
Tell them like my mom died, my best friend died. Like I've always used art to help myself. Like I don't know what I'm doing. Like what I'm going to do with my life right now. At this point, I had a one-way ticket to Peru. I was like, I'm selling all my stuff. I'm giving away most of my stuff. I'm selling the other part of it. I have a one-way ticket. I'm leaving in a month for yoga teacher training. And I don't really know what I'm doing with my life. And I'm so sad. I miss my mom and my friends so much. And I just was completely unfiltered. And as I was saying all this stuff, the room just fell silent. And so there's about 15 of these kids in the room. And Alex was there. Maybe 11 of the kids were in there, of the youth. And so it's silent. So I finished speaking and the room's quiet. And I was like, all right, so now let's go back to the painting of the
like,
Alice.
In any event, thank you for hearing my truth. Alice, take it away with the demo for the mural installation.
It was like the realest they had seen me. And then they were like, all right, now we have your attention. Now I'll listen to you.
Yeah.
And Alex interrupted me and goes, whoa. That was let's lean into this for a minute. Like, does anybody have any questions? He was like, you just shared a lot.
Yeah.
Can we ask questions? I was like, yeah, sure. And he goes, all right, guys, do you guys have any questions? And this one kid, Angel, he's putting cream cheese on his bagel, and he looks up, he goes, yeah, why did you choose to go to Peru?
All right, Angel.
And I look at him and I was like, one of my best friends, my best friend's there right now. And she lives there. So I'd gone to visit her, and I love the mountains and the ocean. And that's where the teacher training was, that was being offered by a company that I wanted to do training with. And it was just so refreshing to have that real conversation.
I feel like that was it's such a gift for those kids. It's such a gift when people are real. It's so nice. It's so refreshing when we stop with the nonsense and the masking and the weird posturing that we do, which it's societal. It has a place. That's fine. You have to have these, containers for the human experience. And we can't just be spilling all over each other all the time. But we the authenticity of sharing something the way you shared something, where again, you're not planning on telling the kids you're teaching how to install a mural in juvenile detention about the grief and this transition going on in your life, but you need to, because you're human and you're alive and you need to express that. And this is a place where it comes out, and it's so refreshing for those kids who probably hear so much empty speech all the time and so much inauthenticity, and they get to see that you're vulnerable and that you're struggling and that you're confused and that you're also messy and that you're also a safe person and you're helpful and you're figuring your path out. There's so much inspiration that you convey to those kids by being honest and authentic. And that felt like, this sounds to me like a little gift from the universe to you, that you got to have all these kids and this, really insightful co-facilitator hold space for you and hear what's going on for you, because that is an enormous amount to have happen to you in one lifetime, let alone 1 year. It's a huge life altering shift. And I love that you had that you had a group of people hear you and be able to hold space for you and ask you questions and talk to you. And also, I feel sure they were so refreshed. It's just real
Totally.
talk,
Yeah. And they were appreciative for me sharing, and they're like, I'm sorry for your loss.
Yeah. And I bet
Because
they've got lost in their lives. I bet they've, you don't just
course.
end up in juvie for no reason. So
Yeah.
much pain that goes into that experience.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So then you went to Peru?
Yeah. So then I went to Peru, and I thought, I'm going to unpack, and we painted the mural. I learned so much about myself,
Yeah.
and through these kids, they taught me so much. And I became, just within those 8 weeks, so much better of a teacher, because I had to be authentic.
Yeah.
I was realizing at that point, it was just not going to do any of us any good if I wasn't
Yeah.
authentic. And that meant being okay with being unsure and being okay with being uncomfortable. So I
I love that.
became, it was amazing. It was some of the most profound moments of my teaching in those 8 years of me, like teaching in all those schools. In those 8 weeks in that juvie center, it was just day after day of these days I'll like never forget, kind of thing. Like the
Wow.
impressions that were made on me and moments that I experienced, because I was so present. And I think that that's one of the things I love about working in prisons and juvenile detention centers. People have to stay acutely aware of what's happening,
Yep. Yep.
and it's just such like a pressure cooker in so many ways too. So
Mm-hmm.
the intensity of the experience is just heightened
Mm-hmm.
because of the restrictions, the amount of restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I went at the end of that 8 week experience, which I thought was just going to be like a summer gig and then I'd move on, which
Okay.
that was not the case.
Right.
It's funny how these things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to Peru, and my yoga teacher training was starting a couple weeks after I got there. So I decided to do Machu Picchu and do a little bit of traveling before I did my yoga teacher training, because I wasn't really sure what I'd do after the training.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Machu Picchu and did this like weekend long thing where we went whitewater rafting and zip lining and like these biking. And I thought, oh, perfect. It's like an outdoor adventure.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm on the edge of a cliff. And I sense at this point, I'm able to sort of tune into sensing angels. So I would sense my grandpa pretty clearly. And I was kind of tuning in to be like, all right, Mom, Carly, or, any
Yeah.
angels are there. And it just felt like there's this beautiful blue sky with not a single sense of any sort of angels in the sky. It was very almost eerie for me. I felt so alone. I'm on the edge of this cliff. I'm thinking, it was in Peru in the jungle. So it was pretty rugged.
Yeah.
And so I had my little vest on. I hook the guy that was helping me hooks my buckle onto the line, and I'm afraid of heights. So this whole time I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what did I do? This was crazy, crazy idea.
Yeah.
So I hook the line and I jump off, and in the sky are that boy Angel, who asked me why Peru, and he's
Yeah.
still alive today. And then this guy Nas, and they were in the sky, like sensed their presence.
Oh, wow.
I'm literally zipping through. I'm like, oh, it's good to see you guys, like telepathically. I'm just like, oh, nice to see you, but kind of thing, like Rolodex, like mom, Carly, grandma, grandpa. And they're just like, you got this. You're strong. We got you. We'll support you. And I was like, oh my, and I felt so safe. I was like, I'm going to totally get through this. I was so scared. I was like, I'm good. And my feet landed on the other end of the mountain. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be teaching, I'm going to be going into juvie centers and prisons and letting these guys know that they're walking angels. And I took like 2 steps and I thought, I'm never going to make enough money. I like too much nice stuff. How am I ever going to get paid for this?
You're like, God damn it. Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. No, yeah. This is my calling. It's my path.
Like,
I have a champagne palate. I'm working on a beer budget here. Oh my God. I love you. That's so great.
And then I literally was like, all right, I'm gonna forget this happened. And then I took like a few more steps. It was like, oh honey, your life just changed. Like you just heard God speak to you clearer than you've ever heard it before, or whatever it is, spirit, God. And it was just like, oh, you just entered a totally different realm of living. Like you can't forget that. You couldn't forget that if you tried. And if you do, you'll get very sick.
Yeah.
You will run yourself into the
ill.
ground.
Yeah. You will be ill.
You just took the red pill.
Yeah. Yeah. You swallowed it.
Yeah.
It's digesting. There's no going back. You could try to make yourself throw up. It doesn't matter. It's in your bloodstream, girl.
Through and through. And I thought, all right, so this is going to be my mission. And I'm literally like walking to the next, because there was like a couple zip lines. You did like a couple of them. The second ones were always easier and smaller.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like walking to the next thing. I'm like, all right, logistically, I'm going to do this yoga teacher training. Then I should probably look up yoga teacher trainings for like prison specifically. And then I'm like, keep walking. I thought, you know what, Leah, why don't you just do your first training, see if you like it.
Yeah.
And then go from there, like one step at a time.
Smart.
Yeah.
Way to not, take an enormous bite out of the universal path that just unfolded for you. Way to be like, okay, step by step. There's no rush. This is a lifetime.
Like, I don't need to like go on my computer and make like an Excel document plan about like a chart of how I'm going to like map this all out.
No, although that's always fun.
It is. It's important. So it's like finding that balance is important.
But yeah, let it happen. Let it come to you, right. Left brain, right brain balance,
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's so beautiful. So this is a really, so I love one of the things that's always really stood out to me about the work that you do, and you just really touched on this with Nas and Angel, you see a light in people who are incarcerated that a lot of society doesn't. And that, people listening to the show may or may not know, but I have a brother who is incarcerated. He's in and out of jail. He's mentally ill. So my heart is always, when he's in jail, my heart is in jail with him. And when he's on the street, I'm on the street with him. And so when people are hard on, and I get it. Some people who are in jail have done, or in prison, which again, for listeners, there's a difference: jail, prison, etc., high security, low security. Some people have done some really bad things, some really, really bad things. And it's complicated. And the concept of restorative justice is complicated. But what I love about you and the work that you do is that you have this superpower of seeing the good in people, because it never, in my, this is my belief, most of the time, I'd say 99% of the time, it doesn't go away. It's very starved or suppressed or choked out, or it's buried under layers of heavy cement. I mean, it can go deep. It can get really buried, really down deep, but it is still there. And for some, it's really close to the surface. It's right there. It's mixed up with pain and fear and anger and aggression. And I love that you see that in these people, and you have this ability to go and be with them. It kind of reminds me of Jesus. And I'm not overtly Christian, but I definitely study all forms of spirituality and religion. And I love there's some line from some book in the New Testament where, people are asking Jesus, like, how can you hang out with these like these prostitutes and these criminals and these, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I'm sitting with these people here, helping them. I'm not becoming them. I'm not, what's the word? Affirming their decisions or their pain. I'm here with them to help, to listen, to understand, to support. And that's hard for people to do. When somebody's suffering, people go away. They tuck into their shell. It's scary. I don't want to get sick. I don't want to suffer. I don't want to go to jail. Why'd you do a bad thing? I don't get it. And you don't seem to have that. You seem to have this ability to be like, hey, boo, what's going on with you? Like, what's up? Are you okay? You know what? You're not. Don't even answer that. I can tell you. Like, you need a hand. So talk about that. I love that.
We all do. I feel like we all need a hand. And when I work with them, it's like, I'm doing this work too. And when I am in these facilities teaching this work, I am required to practice this stuff. And so I get a lot out of it in terms of like accountability.
Yeah.
Because I can't be teaching. The thing is, these, especially the teenagers, they have such a strong BS detector and the ability to see through somebody's.
I'm so scared of teenagers. I don't know how you do it. Girl, I facilitated. I worked with Girls Inc. for a summer in New York, and I swear, I went into like a middle school, like it was like 7th grade girls. I was like, you're gonna eat me alive. I'm so afraid of you, and I believe in you, and I'm proud of you. I have to go. I'm not ready.
Yeah. Females are tough. I've worked with some females are just less that are locked out, but the females I've worked with, some of them the experiences were so profound. It was definitely such a strong impact. I think I find females a little bit more difficult to work with because I feel like a lot of times women kind of put themselves together a lot more easily in terms of covering up, like, I'm going to keep it together. So everything's okay. We're keeping it cool. And it's a little bit harder to help, like, get the walls down. Yeah.
Yep.
But when you do, it's life-changing. But the males that I've worked with and the teenagers, the way I do it is the class combines like yoga, meditation, and writing. And now I've incorporated into the class habit stacking. So I tell them, like, this class we do together is like going to the dentist, but when you do it on your own, like, you still have to brush your teeth every day.
Right. You got to floss.
You got to floss, you got to brush your teeth. So it's like, which of these activities, and whether it's yoga, meditation, or writing, or some other thing that helps you be the best version of yourself and like connect to something bigger than you, which of those things that do you need to do every day to be
that person?
Exactly.
Right.
And so it's building, and these classes are like, they build on each other, and there's always guys coming in and out. And then sometimes I have a group that I've been working with now, like, for example, one group in a juvenile detention center I've been working with for almost 2 years, and probably there, like, see them once a month. And so to see the progression is really incredible. And it's a slow burn. This work is not microwaved like success.
Yeah.
But those moments where, just like you said, it's like seeing that light and just mirroring it back and reminding them that they have that inside of them, helping them feel really good and mentally liberated through the breathing exercises and the movement, and then laying in a shavasana, that final resting pose in yoga, and guiding them through a meditation to access maybe their future self, to then impart wisdom on, to share with their current self. And then when they come out of it, it's like, write that down, put it on an index card, put it in your room so you have it to remind yourself of your own future self, being like, you got this, you can do this, I'm proud of you. So now I've like incorporated all these more newer age techniques, which has been, not all these, but a few of these newer age techniques, which has been exciting to see that connect to the ancient practices of yoga and meditation. To create the class.
Yeah. So you have a program, and is this what you're referring to? You've got a program, I know, that's called Agitated to Elevated. I had the great pleasure of reading through the syllabus recently, and it's really fantastic. And again, really speaks to it, that facet of this program that I love, that's working with people who are being punished by society to make them feel good, to actually, retrain them to feel self-love, to feel self-empowerment, to feel, you know, a sense that you can right the ship if the ship goes sideways, or if you're going through a hurricane, like you're going to get to calm waters, you're going to get to blue skies. You just have to stay steady. So
Exactly.
yeah. So tell me about the program.
Also, like in terms of that, like writing the ship, it's also like connecting to like your purpose. Like, why are you,
Yeah.
everybody has that purpose. Everybody has a gift. So like everybody, I believe, is innately born with these gifts. So it's like, how can you then share your gift with the world? And
Mm-hmm.
so first it's like connecting your mind and your body, and like to begin with, and then being able to feel safe and calm enough in your body, activating your parasympathetic nervous system so that you're able to be creative and think through, and then be asked again, like the art teacher sort of in me is like, gets that excitement over like creative thinking. And then how can you use the combination of like the tools of your body coupled with listening to that higher voice or like spiritual guidance to
Mm-hmm.
then share your gifts with others,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then create the system and accountability to be like, all right, so when I see you in the next a month, or I see you in 2 weeks or whatever it is, what are you going to be doing between now and then to cultivate more of this? Because when they do it themselves, it's reinforced.
Yeah. And you know what I think is cool about that too, is inviting somebody to try to understand their purpose. It's funny. I was just writing about this literally last night. I was writing about this. I was writing about how, when I go through periods that are tumultuous and distressing, to remember my why is the thing that becomes the touchstone. It becomes the anchor in those really difficult moments. Because if I know, okay, well, this is why I'm here. This is what I'm here to do. This is who I want to be. That becomes the guidepost when I'm like, I'm in a maelstrom right now. This is a mess. I'm confused. I feel upside down. I feel like I'm tumbled through the, like a wash cycle. And what the hell am I doing? Oh yeah, this is who I am. This is what I do. So what do I, hold on to those things, steady, find calm, find space in between action and reaction. And it's without that sense of, here are the gifts I see that I can give the world. Here's who I think I am. Here's who I want to be. When you get into really tough moments, you don't have there is no grounding point, and everything becomes can become a mess, and life throws so many things on our plates. And without that sense of your why, which is I almost feel cheat. I didn't write that last night. I was like, I'm not going to write my why. I'm going to find a different way to phrase it, because that's too tropey. But it really, it really is. It's your why. It's why are you here? What are you doing here? And without it, things are it's confusing. So you're giving these people like, hey, also you're here, this might not feel immediately, obviously, like a good circumstance, but what's the reason you're here? Like, this is a teaching moment for you. This is an opportunity for you. This isn't a dark mark on your life story. This isn't a backward step. This is part of your path. What's this about for you?
And yeah, 100%. And Jane, these classes, that when we are doing these classes, it goes from feeling like you're inside of a gym of a prison into like it's as magical as it would be in a retreat center.
Hell yeah.
I mean, it changes the whole. It feels so different, and it is so magical.
Yeah.
And I've been at the retreat centers. I've done these trainings, and it's amazing. I love working with all, anybody who feels like they want to be liberated mentally. I love to work with.
Yeah.
And anyone who feels like stuck sort of and wants some of these answers that really come from inside. I love working with, but there is definitely something about doing them in the settings of the prison system that's also heightens the intensity of it.
Absolutely. I just realized my light hasn't been on this whole time. So, but it's not
now
that
it's
dark.
on. It's
Yeah.
not that dark. It was pretty light.
It's pretty light. That's so beautiful. And so, okay. So agitated to elevated. How long does that last? Do you take that? And I'm going to pepper you with questions, and then you can answer one at a time, and I'll repeat myself. But what I want to know is, how long does the course last? And do you take it facility to facility? And do you follow up after the course is done?
Great questions. So the ideal setting is a 12 class module.
Okay.
So there's 12 main lessons and 12, I found that 12 sessions gives enough time. I mean, I feel like there's like a 12 session part A, and then we run it back a second time, part B. And then I feel like by the end of that 24 sessions, I feel like they would be more ready, equipped to like almost begin facilitating parts of it themselves.
Wow.
Because that's really what happens, that they start doing these kind of things with each other. They're doing yoga on their own. They're doing, they're teaching other people they're on the phone with people at home, encouraging them to take slow breaths and things like that. So that's really when I feel like they start to own it more and more as being like their practices, because they're doing it enough that it is their practice. It's no longer me reminding, me reminding them it's theirs.
Yeah.
But so I generally have these 12 classes, but there's also just ongoing classes that I do. So I go into different facilities. Right now I'm going into 3 different facilities, and but then sometimes I will do an 8 class, package of classes, or I've done that at another facility and did 2 rounds of 8 classes. Sometimes I only, I'm going out to a different place in New York State, and I'm working with staff. So I also do staff like wellness workshops, which is a different iteration of the program. So it's different, slightly different, called different. I call it Refuel and Reignite. And there's an emphasis on using this in leadership, and also when they're teaching and they're working with incarcerated individuals, or any, whoever they're working with, because sometimes I work with even higher ups who are never even touching too often the actual cells or the groups, but they're also now, controlling the other staff. So I've worked with, in all different sort of group numbers, and so it depends sort of on the audience and how much time I have. But agitated to elevated, when I do it, it's usually like an 8 to 12 session series.
Got it. And do you get a chance to follow up either with the COs or with the, the participants themselves?
There is limitations on that.
Yeah.
Legally.
Yeah.
So but however, I'm in the midst of completing a research study that is aimed to measure the results of the class. So we had 2 groups, a group A and group B. Group B was the control group. Group A was the one that received the classes. And group B is actually going to be starting to receive the classes as well shortly. But they all took surveys before, asking questions about their emotional, social, and sort of mental, physical states. And then they're all going to take the surveys after those 12 sessions. So the aim is to show the effects of what the guys that got the class had.
Yeah.
So that's going to be, I'm excited about that, because I feel like it's going to be the first time that we have the research on the class, but also the first time in this country where we've been able to measure the effects of yoga and writing together in a class in a prison, because there's been a lot of research on yoga and meditation and writing separately in prisons, but it's never been put all together, which to me is like, it's a trifecta.
It's a total trifecta. It's a trinity.
You don't always want to do movement. I don't even always want to do meditation. And sometimes I just have way too much on my mind. I better write it out.
Yeah. It's like, sometimes you need a fork, sometimes you need a knife, sometimes you need a spoon. You need all 3.
That's a great metaphor.
Thank you.
That's it. I just saw a graphic. I'm like, I think that there needs to be some sketches around this.
Please take that, dude. Please do a graphic of that. Truly though, right? Like they're all, and I agree. And sometimes I need to journal. Sometimes I need to move, and sometimes I need to meditate. And I definitely don't just need one of those things ever. And I think especially in an incarcerated setting where you're, to your point, so constricted, there's so much pressure. You need as many tools as are available to you, and you need them in conjunction with one another.
100%. And I do this purposely, that they can all do these practices on their own. So as long as they have paper and pen, they can do all of these things on their own. So there's no, and in the manual I give them, it has the yoga poses and it has meditation practices and things like that I've now been able to have the administration share with them and print it out, so that they have copies of this, so that they can, which is new. I mean, the manual I just finished, it's still, iterations are being updated, but I just only had that in the last couple of months. So just like yesterday I asked, or 2 days ago, I asked one of the teenagers, I was like, have you read the manual? Like, do you refer to it? Yeah, I read it like 20 times. I was like, oh, that's awesome. So
Oh,
yeah, it's sitting right on my desk. Sometimes when I'm just bored, I just flip through it. And it's so sweet because it has, I mean, it has like the best quotes that I've ever gone through this class that
yeah.
so many guys have loved and like women, but it also has these practices so that it's amazing that I'm able to share it in a book like form.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's fantastic. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to see the data and hear the developments. We'll have you back once that study's completed.
I
Absolutely.
love that.
So I could spend this entire interview talking about your work in prisons, and I think I'm going to circle back, but I want to talk more about, you mentioned already angels and a sense of communication with, both with a frequency, different frequencies, which I think that's, a very intuitive experience, and then also with directly with your mom Carly, Nas, Angel, etc. And I know that you are a Reiki practitioner, and I actually was lucky enough to have a session with you a couple of days ago, which was fantastic, and I've done a lot of integrating sense, and I'm feeling awesome, and it was very insightful. And so I want to talk about that side of your work, which I'm sure, is always a part of what you're doing when you're in the prisons. It's a part of who you are. So it comes with you everywhere you go. So talk to me a little bit about that part of you.
Reiki's like the magic. I feel like it's like the magic sauce. And it just
And
helps.
for listeners, and even for me, maybe, what is Reiki?
So Reiki's a ancient Japanese traditional like healing practice. And it's about energy work. So we use light and breathing techniques and light. When I say light, I mean like visualization techniques with light, like using light and imagining. I'll close my eyes and I imagine this energy coming through me up, from up and below my feet, up through my whole body, up through the top of my
Mhm.
head, and then
Mm.
coming down from the sky, down through my whole body. I imagine that there's a circle of light around my whole body, golden pyramids up top, golden pyramid below. And then, so I use these kind of visualization practices to sort of cloak up and increase the amount of energy going through my body. And then
Mhm.
I draw these symbols with my fingers that are the Reiki symbols. So those are the symbols that were basically passed down from a master. I forget his name now, but who initially started quote unquote Reiki, the
Got it.
way I was trained in it.
So
So
energy, light and energy work,
yeah,
healing.
yeah, energy. It's basically like energy work using these symbols. And I think there's different iterations of it from different cultures, sort of in their own way. But I found that doing it in this way also allowed me to tap into my clairvoyant abilities and hone those practices.
Mhm.
And I think that I think I was clairvoyant. I think we're all clairvoyant. I think we all have that
Totally. Yeah,
like ability.
totally.
And I kind of knew there was something up. Like I was feeling, I would have dreams, and then I'd see somebody, or things like that. You hear a song, and then you think of a song, and you walk into the store and it's playing, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The numbers, the license plates, so
Right,
the
right, right.
times,
Yeah.
all that stuff. And then when I just started doing Reiki, I was able to dial into seeing into clients' lives, either past or future. I would
Wow.
see like parts of their past. Even I'm just thinking of one man, I did it with him, and I saw this like little yellow truck, and like it was just like this toy, and it was his favorite toy as a kid.
Wow.
Like things like that. Or I'll see something that happened. Somebody got injured. They were
Mhm.
in a car accident,
Mhm.
or like got lost. One little girl's lost in a store, or the feeling of being rejected from a group, or like it's almost like I can go back and see them.
Mhm.
It's almost like I'm watching a movie, but it's like a dream.
Mm,
You know how when you
mhm.
have dreams, you're like you're watching it, but it's not so much like a screen. It's more like you're in it. It's
Mhm.
like you're in the scene, and you can also not just see it, but you could sort of feel some of the feelings that the characters are having.
Yeah.
So that's what it's like when I do Reiki.
Wow.
And then sometimes I see future stuff, which is always fun because then I like confirm it, and then I'll say, share the things that I see. And then a couple of years later or a couple of weeks later, I'll get a message of like, it happened. I'm like, oh yeah, I know it was going to, but I'm glad you got to see it
I'm
now.
glad it happened for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad it happened. And
And you never feel a sense of uncertainty that it will happen. You see it and you know that it will come to pass.
yeah, I used to be really, I used to question it a lot. And so I just got my reps in. So
Mhm.
I started doing a little bit, even at the end of these classes at the prisons, I'll just stay on my mat and I do distance Reiki. So I tell them about it. I say, listen, I do this stuff Reiki, this is what it is.
Mm.
I'm just going to stay on my mat. And if you want, when you're laying in Shavasana, I can direct some of this energy towards you. You might
Mm.
feel a little bit more like push, pull, see colors, or you might not at all.
Mhm.
But then I jot down like kind of notes and messages for each one of them. So at the end, I can share what I got,
Awesome.
which is great because it's also affirming them that they're not alone. So,
Mhm.
um, one example is this was a kind of a wild moment. And I love doing it with like teenagers because they're just so like I'm not, I don't believe in that. Like they could be really like resistant of like just anything authority. They just want to push against boundaries. And I love that. I love working with that kind of energy because it
Mhm.
really requires that you be like warm but strong.
Mhm.
Because if you're cold, they're gonna be like feel rejected. So
Yep.
there's like this warmth, like warm strict, we used to call it when we were elementary school teaching.
Warm, strict. I like that.
Yeah, warm strict.
Yeah.
So one of the boys I or young men, I said, you know that thing you can do with your fingers where you take your fingers and put your fabric in between your fingers. So it's sort of like folding the fabric in between your fingers, like your pointer finger, middle finger, and ring finger, just
Mhm.
sort of like doing that with fabric. And I said, do that. I said, you're very like kinesthetic, you're a kinesthetic learner. And this is the first time I ever met this kid. So I didn't really know him.
Mhm.
So I said, it feels like you're a very kinesthetic learner. You like touch feels good to you. So do this with your t-shirt on the edge of your t-shirt when you're out and you feel like anxious. It'll be
Mm.
soothing. And his jaw drops and he smiles and he goes, that's what I do with my toes on my sheets before I go to bed at night.
Wow.
I was like, perfect. So now you can do it with your fingers on your shirt when you can't be doing it with your toes
Yeah.
in public.
Yeah. That's really interesting. What I like about I mean, I love Reiki. I love cranial sacral therapy. I love any modalities of energy work and body work. And I geek out on them and I think they're so amazing and so great for the human. And I like the self-empowering and mutually empowering quality that energy work has. It's very connecting. And I love that. I think it's cool that you have been able to cultivate this sense of clairvoyance, sense of insight that comes from Reiki that I doubt, I'm sure every Reiki practitioner doesn't have that same experience. This is also a little bit of just the Gooch magic. This is specific to you. And I wonder about how you've been able to affirm that in yourself. Cause I don't know, but I imagine if it were me and I've had my clairvoyant experience. They're different than yours, but I have had my metaphysical experiences and I've had peer and have them and live with them and love them now and really enhance them, but really used to doubt them and be very skeptical or especially because I have a brother who's schizoaffective, very fearful of my noetic abilities, which I agree with you. Everybody has this. Everyone has a sixth sense, a dial in, an ability, communication. The boundaries are way thinner than we think they are. Like I'm good with it. That's absolutely the case. But because my brother's illness was so acute and deals with delusion and deals with an inability to ground yourself in a safe reality, I was very skeptical of experiences that prior to his sickness I was like totally in love with and owned and was like, yeah, I dwell in the ether and that's all cool. You don't have a family member with schizophrenia, but we still live in a world that can be very censoring and very doubtful and skeptical. How did you know, how did you own this and move through that and start to not worry about it? Because you seem very, very comfortable with what you do.
It's been a journey, as they say. I would say I got stronger just in the last probably 2 years. I not even like the last year. I feel like I've really, it kind of got to a turning point because I would hear myself talk about it, and all the data that I was showing was like all these clients I was working with and all these things that I would think would were going to happen were happening. And like, so all the data was showing that I knew what that this was real,
Mm-hmm.
and in my experiences, but I was still kept doubting myself. Um, and then I realized, with some help with like a coach, and also like realizing that I'm not helping anybody by not by doubting my own gifts and like playing so small.
Yeah.
So I recognize that I'm actually doing not so much myself a disservice, but like I'm doing other people a disservice by not sharing this powerful gift. And then one thing I love about that, one way I share it now, is when I go to these conferences, especially Docs Department of Corrections conferences, which I go to a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I have a group, let's say 25 participants. And then at the end, I say, if anybody wants to come up and receive some Reiki, I'll do it on a couple people,
Mm-hmm.
so that they could see firsthand that we're all connected, that there's something much bigger than us that's watching us. Because if it wasn't, then how would I know this about this woman? And you know that I'm right, because she's sitting here and starting to cry. Like,
Mm-hmm.
clearly I'm hitting a nerve by, reminding her of something
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't know, because I didn't even know this woman until this afternoon when we did this workshop. So
Right.
that's been reaffirming. And I think just one of my ways of doing it is just coming back to like, it's not about me. It's I'm a part of something much bigger. And I'm just, the more I listen to that, like that voice, and the more I keep myself, like my temple clean and my temple clear,
Mm-hmm.
the better I'm going to help other people, and the more I'm going to help other people. That's one thing that helped me. Actually, I don't really drink that much. I drink alcohol like once in a while,
Mm-hmm.
but it helped me not. And I had like a kind of unhealthy relationship with alcohol for a bit. It didn't seem like it from the outside, but I knew it wasn't. I was drinking too much,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew like the way that I was thinking about drinking wasn't healthy, even though it didn't look like it was that terrible. And I realized that if I did Reiki, or if I drank, I couldn't really do Reiki the next day. And I couldn't do Reiki if I'd been drinking.
Yeah.
So I couldn't even really tune into almost like a superpower if I was drinking. So it helped me to be healthier. It was like, I'll eat healthier and I'll do more exercise and things like that, so that I can use my body and my mind and my heart for this, in this practice.
The service work. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it
Yeah.
gave it like, I was like, all right, well, if that's the case, because people are like, oh, I wish I could be like telepathic and reads minds. And I'm like, oh, I can. I just have to make sure like I go to CrossFit and do yoga and meditate and journal and
Right.
do some alternate nostril breathing and not drink.
Right. Right.
So, and I think also like one other thing for like anybody who's listening to this and thinking like, I kind of have this thing that I want to work on, just keep pushing yourself to do it in a harder, in like a more challenging place. Like go bigger, sign up for stuff,
Mm-hmm.
put yourself in rooms that make you feel like a small fish in a big sea, and push yourself, to feel uncomfortable, and but still be able to share the gifts. Because then when you're in it, and it's kind of like when I signed up for that zip lining thing, I was afraid of heights. But once you're on the cliff, you're like, all right, well, there's really nowhere to go here now. Like, set yourself up so that you're in circumstances that are safe. So, but trust that when you get there, it will be scary, but that's how you grow. Because if you're not uncomfortable, then we're not growing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love so much of what you just said there. I love keeping the temple clean. I get that, and really appreciate how you know, notice what can help you cultivate your best self, and then really practice that. And I deeply relate. I have, the various practices that help me to be able to show up for the work that I do, that I can't do the work that I love to do if I'm overly caffeinated, or if I haven't had enough sleep, or if I've had, I don't drink all that much either, because I've got a pretty serious alcohol intolerance. So I won't be able to show up, because I'll be throwing up for 24 hours,
Yeah.
but whatever, like if I haven't worked out, or if I haven't done a breathing technique, my nervous system gets off, my functionality is disrupted. And then I'm not channeling the Janeness, the presence, the awareness, the tapping into you-ness that I can do when I'm like, I'm ready. My temple's clean. I feel good. Like, I'm here, or my temple's clean and ready. So if something difficult comes through, it just goes right on through. It's just got so much space to keep moving. And I'm like, yeah, carry on.
I love that.
Yeah.
And you're also, when you're in that situation, you're able to like look around and say like, what am I supposed to be learning from this?
Yeah, what's this here for? Like the
Yeah.
Rumi quote, the Rumi poem, greet each feeling at your door as a welcome guest, and invite them in and tell them a joke. And now I'm riffing
Mm-hmm.
off the poem, obviously. He
Yeah.
doesn't.
I love it. I like that
Yeah.
version. I like that
Right.
iteration of Rumi. Tell them a joke.
Invite them in, tell them a joke. Yeah. Make them some tea. And I love too, going back to you really owning this ability. I think skepticism is so dangerous, and there's something really amazing to me about uh, doing something. That's what I mean. This whole show is called otherwise. The whole concept is people doing things that are not immediately obvious, immediately labeled okay, immediately labeled easy to do or societally accepted, and how they just follow that star anyway. They follow that lodestone, and I love seeing that what you're doing, it's happening, it's coming to you, you're experiencing it, you're not and it's helping people, and it's interesting and it's informative. So rather than still doubting it because we grew up in Puritan America who's terrified of women with psychic abilities, you're like, I'm just going to lean into this, and I'm going to really take care of myself and do it because that's what I'm here to do. And what's the worst that could happen? Some people are going to think, or some people are going to doubt you. They're going to be skeptical, like,
Yep.
yeah, that sounds
And
digestible.
yeah,
That's okay.
exactly. And the more, I feel like the more we like listen to that voice, the more like you meet these angels along the way that help
Sure.
reaffirm it. Like every time.
Mm-hmm.
Every
Mm-hmm.
time you're at that like crossroads and like, ugh, do I listen to the fear, or do I like go from fear or go from love? And when you go from that love and like into the abyss of like the unknown, which
Yeah.
is thrilling and scary and
Yeah.
uncomfortable at times,
Yep.
there you're not alone, and you'll find those others that are around there in that same place of like willing to walk that path.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
how we met.
Totally how we met. Totally. Yeah. Leah and I met in God, did we meet at that we didn't meet at Hotspot. Okay.
We
We met,
didn't. We had
we
already
met.
run into each other two other times
That's
prior
right.
to when I just like went up to you. I was like, yo, girl, I'm
Yeah.
going to this like, was it a Reiki thing or
Reiki
was it a
thing.
Reiki
We're like,
circle?
I'm
Yeah.
doing Reiki. We were at a yoga studio. We met doing hot yoga in New York. Leah came up to me. Leah met me and my mom because my mom
Yeah. That's
was there
Socrates.
visiting. It's
Mm-hmm.
Socrates hot yoga. And then we met again at a yoga studio in Kingston. And Leah gave me some Reiki info. And then our stars intertwined.
Yeah. I saw you like it was like the third time I saw you in a very short amount of time. And I just heard the voice of like, she's your friend. So you might as well just start hanging out with her now because
She's
like,
your friend,
yeah,
just so you
like
know.
you guys are friends. So you
Should
might
go
as
talk to
well
her.
just like get the numbers, do the whole like formalities. And like, if you want to get that done with, but like, you're basically going to be hanging out with her. So,
I'm stoked. I'm stoked. I was
and
so
I'll never forget. I was at the Olivia's yoga studio and I was looking out this small little box window and I saw you working out and doing CrossFit. And I had been watching these people do CrossFit for well over a year
yeah.
and never was like, oh, I can never do that. That's not even my thing. And I saw you doing it and I was like, wow, she's so strong. She's so badass. And I was like, I'm gonna try this. And I now do CrossFit and it's one of the best things that I do for my body.
Hell yeah.
I think of you. I think of you when I do the bike. I think of you when I do wall balls. Remember, you were doing the bike, and you did it so fast and so well. I was like, oh, she must have cheated. And literally, I didn't know you that well then. And then later, I was like, yeah, I figured you kind of cheated. And you're like, I don't cheat. You were, you were like, and then I like looked at your legs. I was like, oh yeah,
You're like,
I
look,
get.
those quads don't lie.
Literally, you were like, I am.
I'm like, have you seen
Yeah,
this ass?
yeah,
Girl, I don't need to cheat.
exactly, exactly. And it was so beautiful because it was like such power, and then just like the way that you were too, like I could feel like how powerful you felt from doing that workout. I was like, this is how I want to feel.
Mm, thank you. Yeah. Like you get CrossFit, anybody listening, do whatever workout's right for you. CrossFit's amazing. It really is. Make sure you don't overload your bar. Don't pull your weights up too fast. go at the right pace for you. And I mean, there's just nothing like slaying a workout of that magnitude and that velocity. And you feel that feeling that you are seeing on me, that I'm sure you feel it every when you go work out now. You're like, I am so strong. I'm so
Yep.
strong. And even you've gotten your absolute, butt handed to you, and you handed it right back, and you're so strong. And then you're so hungry and thirsty, and you sleep so well, and your system is so stoked with you, and you're so, it's just,
Totally. Working
yeah,
out it's amazing. And in that way it's structured right and they know what they're doing.
yeah.
As long as you like listen to your body. Also, the other thing I love about it is the endurance I have of doing like next week. So today we're recording this on a Sunday.
Mhm.
Next week I have 4 speaking engagements from Buffalo to New York City.
Queen.
Like I'm all over the
I wish I
state.
could be at every single one of them, girl. Oh,
And they're going to be so good. And I have these workshops and I'm able to like enjoy that and be excited about it because I know my body. And granted, I've got my sound machine. I know what I got, my roller. I've got my gua sha stone. I
oh
have
yeah.
my night creams. So I'm prepared with my regiment of like self-care and things like that. But my body's, I know that I'm able to physically do it, which
Mm-hmm.
is cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It's like you put yourself in these extremely challenging situations, and you survive and you thrive. And that matters when you step on a stage and you're talking in front of a huge group of people, and you have a microphone, and you're like, I just climbed up a rope like all the way to the ceiling, and
Yeah.
like I'm good. I can tell you this.
100%.
Yeah.
Literally, I was more scared climbing that rope than I
Yeah.
am talking to you guys right now. So at least
And I,
now,
and I
like,
was fine. So
yeah, my shins are all bruised or whatever.
oh God, yeah, I know the rope burn. Lord, the rope
Yeah,
burn.
the rope was always something else.
Yeah. So this has been just a complete pleasure. Is there anything I was thinking? There were two things actually, two before we close. Micah, who I realized earlier when I mentioned to listeners is the co-creator of this show with me. He's also my husband. I don't want to leave that out of this. I thought back, I was like, I should probably make that clear. I mean,
I know. I was like,
if
are
you
you
don't
not
know.
going to reveal that he's also the love of your life?
He's the love of my life. He's my husband in 2 weeks. Actually, we're getting married in 2 weeks. So it's juicy. It's all coming up. Yeah, I know. I know. I'm so pumped. Oh my God. And he asked a great question when we were preparing for this interview. And he was talking about, we're talking about your work in prisons. And he was saying, I'll ask her what, if anything, is working in prisons, because, you go in, you bring something they're not offering, which needs to be there. But what is working that's there?
That's a good question. So I got to say, Dan Marticello is the current acting commissioner.
Okay.
And he's new. He's the new commissioner. He just came in June 9th, I think. Yeah, 2023.
Okay.
And he's smart. He's got a big heart. And I know this because I did Reiki on him at a conference.
I like that.
So I actually feel like I understand him way more now than I did on just like listening to his presentations and his speeches and reading his memos that he puts out.
Mm-hmm.
But he started an initiative that's almost ending right now, but it's 64 days of nonviolence. So it's between Gandhi's birthday and MLK's birthday. And there's 64 days, and it happens to fall during Ramadan too, which is beautiful. Being in prisons during Ramadan is really like a wild, like a really sacred experience, because these guys are already being limited by so much, yet so many of them are fasting.
Wow.
Those that are Muslim are also not eating or drinking water from sunrise to sunset. So some of these guys in my classes right now are not eating.
Wow.
So they're not only depriving themselves of water and food, they're coming in, doing yoga, meditating, writing. And so when they're hangry and so exhausted.
That is so powerful.
And I forget, like every year I've done this. I mean, I've been in prisons now it'll be 7 years. And every year it's a beautiful time, because it's really like a very contemplative time. It's like almost like a ceasefire, it feels like.
Wow. Wow.
So Marticello, he put this initiative out of 64 days of nonviolence. So they're receiving these journals of inspirational quotes and journaling prompts and things like that. So they're able to then do some of these reflective practices. So there are some things that are going on in the facilities. It's interesting. They don't share much about what they're doing well, because there's a lot of backlash too of what public who, taxpayers and stuff are like, why are they receiving these programs and these resources
Right.
when they're done these things that have caused so much harm for other people and their families? But then it's also like the other side of that is like they're coming out of these facilities and we want them to be coming out stronger, mentally stronger, physically better and healthier than when they came in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I think that's a great, I mean, just to quickly jump in, I just exactly that's what I think is hard when, the penalization of somebody is like, yeah, okay, you can punish them. They did do something wrong. They do need to reconcile and atone, but they're going to come out and do it again and again and again and again and teach their kids and teach their grandkids if you don't impart some of these skills.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The cycle's not going to break.
No. So it's in your best interest, taxpayer, to support these people. And I know it feels paradoxical because it's like, why would I do something good for someone who's done something bad? But it's literally like, because bad begets bad and good begets good.
Yeah. And you got to be the one to like break that.
Yep.
And also data research, other countries.
It just shows, I know, what
Like-
is it, Eastern Europe or Northern Europe, where they're like, you go to jail and you're like at a spa, basically.
Yeah.
And
And then they come out
like,
and then they never go back. They're like, now I'm going to open my own spa. I'm going to, do what I learned how to do. And there's programs, there's vocational programs. So there are some different prisons and I'm meeting more and more like different, now that I'm traveling more to different prisons, I'm seeing some of the amazing staff that are there. Like I respect these staff members like way more now that I'm like seeing them in this work of like really trying to make these facilities, places, not just, but they're like making them safer for those that are there physically, but also safer for the communities for when they do go back. So they really do have like the communities in mind when they're doing their work in the facilities. And I'm talking about like the program leaders, the superintendents of programs, the superintendents of the prisons, and depending on which ones, lean one way or the other. But
that's awesome.
there are some programs that are definitely helpful. So I would say that in answer to that question of what's going well in facilities. And yeah, I'm not really sure what else that I'm like allowed to say.
Sure. I get that. I would, maybe the fact that they're open to your work.
Absolutely. That I would say is going well. The fact that Dan Marticello, the commissioner, came to my workshop upon my request of like, can you please come to this workshop? And he hesitated and I was like, please come. Like, this is,
Let's do it.
I'm at this point, I'm just asking you, I'm like low key trying to like channel your grandmother and tell you to come.
Yeah. You're like, Dave, look into my eyes, Dave. Come on. It's okay. Dave. He's like, Leah.
Yeah.
He's like, why do I feel like I have to come?
Yeah.
Or my grandmother's going to be upset with me.
That's exactly.
Like,
I was
don't worry about that. Just, you need to come.
Literally, I like all of a sudden channel the smell of his like grandma's perfume and he like smells that. He's like, all right, I'll do whatever you say.
He's like, okay, I'm coming. Yep. I don't know why, but I'm coming. And I really miss my grandma right now.
Yeah. So he comes. And then there's like 25 people in that group. And he was one of the people that volunteered to receive the Reiki at the end. So I did it with him and it was incredible.
That's awesome.
And it was like some channeling happened. He came up to me at the end and he was like, this is amazing. Thank you for doing the work that you're doing. So yeah, there are people that are high up that are open to great programming. I mean, Lucy Lang is the Inspector General, and she's developed really amazing programs over at Queensborough Correctional Facility prior to her being the Inspector General. And so she's got a beat on the pulse too of different programs around the state in facilities, because she has a vested interest in docs specifically as well. So, and she's really trying to improve the system. So it's been there are definitely things that are going well, it feels. And of course, with every bit of light, there's always that darkness for sure. Of course. But I think that if it was all going really well, then I wouldn't be working in the system. I'd be doing something else.
Right. Right. So you're where you need to be. And it's good to know that, you feel confidence in the commissioner, you feel confidence in sort of a developing, let's call it open-mindedness, a sense of, endeavoring to expand our correctional facilities to include maybe more correctional efforts because
Yeah,
I think there's an awareness that what we're doing isn't working.
exactly. And
Yeah.
that it's becoming more and more clear, and there's less and less people wanting to work in the facilities. Now there's
My
a
God.
serious issue with staffing. I mean, that is a very like big problem in prisons right now, where COs are so many are out, and then they're just being stuffed. So some, COs will go to leave, be ready to leave after their 8-hour shift, and be
Yeah.
told they're not going home for another 8 hours.
Oh my God.
So that's happening across the state. So these COs are just exhausted. They're overworked, and they're being forced to do this overtime, which, yeah, they get paid more money, but they're missing
Oh,
their
look, I want to
families. They're
go home.
missing,
Yeah.
exactly. They're exhausted. So then that heightens the intensity of the tension between
The COs and the inmates.
yeah, it heightens that. So my hope is that this program is infiltrated throughout the state in different facilities, tailored to both the incarcerated individuals, but also with staff, so that they are also learning these practices, and that it becomes, while everyone's in that facility, everybody has the tools to navigate their nervous system and be able to feel more connected to really why they're there.
Mm, I love that. You're bringing so much integrity back into a space that has become really dark and painful and kind of lost sight of, if it ever had sight of. I don't have enough, background knowledge and research on the American penal system to know if there was ever any, good intention to it, but it's such a dark place in so many ways. And I like that you're shifting this energy for the, for the incarcerated, and also for the COs, for people working in the facility, so that everybody there is like, I'm here to get better. I'm here to do a good thing. I'm here to be of service. I'm here to help. I'm here to take time to reflect on myself. Those are such different motivating factors than you're here because you're bad and you're worthless and you don't have a space in society and I'm sick of you and I have power over you. Like, yikes.
Mm-hmm.
That's awful, trauma inducing
Mm-hmm.
mentality. And I love what you're talking about, which is like, hey, whoa, things went wrong. Let's repair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And my tune is very different now than with COs. I mean, I walked into the prison system viewing COs very differently, and now that I've worked with so many, I mean, I'm friends with a lot of them, and I like, I see that, I see the COs too. I mean, they came into this work for a reason too, and
Yeah.
then getting deeper into that and understanding them, and they're wanting to protect, and they're wanting to like serve their family and take care of their family and heal their wounds and break
Mhm.
their generational traumas. So yeah.
Absolutely. And that would be, that's such an important piece, really not to be missed, because again, along with your work, COs are who inmates get the most exposure to. And
Hmm.
they need, correctional officers are people and they're working in a
Yeah.
very acute environment. It's you need support to do
And
that
I
job.
don't want to do that job.
I don't want to, hey,
I
right?
don't
Oh my God. I don't want
like
to.
so I don't want to do that job. So yeah, it's yeah.
Yeah, bless them, dude. And we got to help them out. I feel like what I'm really just taking from this is how important it really is to have each other's back and help each other out. It's so major. We can't do it by ourselves in a vacuum.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. This has just been a pleasure. I could just go all day.
This has been awesome.
This has been amazing.
Thank you so much for having me. This show is awesome. I'm so excited to listen to all of the episodes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Leah, thank you so much again. And I think we're going to have to do a part two. We're just going to have to do a
Oh
follow
yeah.
up. Yeah.
That'd be awesome. Post
Yeah.
research too. We'll be able
Ex-
to, and I'll be, it'll be a different spot. I'm really at a coming to like a transition soon too, with figuring out like where this is all going. So
Yeah, I feel that. I definitely feel that. So we'll stay tuned.
sounds great, Jane.
I love you, girl.
I love you too.
Fantastic. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Peace, Bill.
Bye.
Thanks so much again for tuning in. Hopefully, there was something in that episode that inspired you that you can take with you throughout the week. Please be sure to like this episode, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and share this with a friend or family member. They might find it useful also. If you want to learn more about us, you can do so at otherwisewithjaneharvey.com, and be sure to sign up for our newsletter, Music by Dash Positive. And if you want this episode in audio form, you can listen to it wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.